Society treats high intelligence as a biological cheat code. We assume a high IQ guarantees effortless success, instant problem solving, and a life free from the friction that slows everyone else down. However, psychological research into high IQ populations reveals a jarring reality. These individuals consistently experience disproportionate levels of mental exhaustion, chronic anxiety, and a deep, persistent sense of isolation. High intelligence functions as a relentless processing engine that never powers down, constantly analyzing situations, words, and even your own emotions too deeply. To understand the toll of this constant activity, we have to track the cognitive pipeline, the exact path a stimulus takes as it enters, disrupts, and eventually overloads this specific type of brain. The struggles common to highly intelligent people are the mechanical consequences of a brain that lacks a reliable off-switch. The cognitive pipeline begins with hyper-awareness. While a standard brain ignores background noise, the intelligent mind constantly scans for hidden patterns, unspoken motives, and behavioral microexpressions that others naturally filter out. This intake lacks a functional barrier, forcing the brain to ingest hundreds of environmental data nodes every second. Refusing to filter, it treats a friend's subtle tone shift with the same intensity as a logical problem, transforming pattern recognition into a heavy emotional payload. This leads to emotional contagion, a state where the individual involuntarily absorbs the pain and stress of those around them, as if the emotions originated within their own mind. Before the intelligent brain even attempts to solve a task, it is already operating under a crushing baseline load of logic and inherited emotion. Once that massive volume of data is inside, the brain moves to the processing stage, attempting to organize the noise into a coherent map of reality. This creates analysis paralysis. The ability to visualize every variable means a simple two-choice decision path fractures into a web of hundreds of divergent potential outcomes. This endless calculation forces the individual to interrogate everything. They find it impossible to accept simple traditions or institutional authority because their mind has already deconstructed every potential flaw in those systems. Eventually, the brain's massive power becomes a trap, turning a standard daily routine into an unnavigable, infinite calculation. Because this processor runs at such high capacity, it develops a physical craving for complex challenges. Without that friction, routine or repetitive tasks feel painfully dull. When the environment lacks sufficient complexity, the brain begins to zone out or procrastinate. This is frequently misdiagnosed as laziness, but it is actually a state of mental starvation. When a challenge finally appears, the processor turns its analytical power inward, leading to maladaptive perfectionism. In this state, the mind operates under the internal belief that any outcome falling short of absolute flawlessness is a total failure. The hyperprocessor creates a no-win scenario. It demands extreme complexity to remain engaged, then punishes itself if the execution isn't perfect. Finally, the cognitive pipeline reaches the output stage, where this overloaded processor attempts to interact with social structures. The brain's need for depth makes standard small talk feel alienating. While others discuss the weather, the high processor is still searching for a way to dive into abstract ideas or philosophy. This disconnect leaves many feeling profoundly isolated. They remain misunderstood even when standing in a crowded room. This social friction is worsened by the external pressure to always be the smart one. Society expects the high processor to perform brilliantly at all times, without making a single mistake. When your entire identity is tied to intelligence, every minor error feels like a total collapse of that identity. This constant fear of falling short of the genius label is the engine of imposter syndrome. Society eagerly consumes the output of the intelligent mind, while remaining blind to the grueling internal friction required to maintain it. Overthinking, isolation, and perfectionism are not personal failures. They are the natural symptoms of a high-performance engine running at its limit. Intelligence is, at its core, the heavy weight of seeing the world in a terrifying yet profoundly beautiful multitude of layers. This mind is a high-maintenance instrument. To function without burning out, it requires strict psychological boundaries, deliberate mental pacing, and an environment that understands its unique mechanics. Feeling overwhelmed by the world is not a sign that you are broken. It is the natural result of perceiving vastly more of it than most people.